John, Katie, Dion, Aaron, and Marita talking about a tool to allow teachers to more easily implement IEP accommodations. So we'll give Annie a minute to find all of them.
Yeah, quite the presentation to follow.
I know, right? Let's see, we've got, there we go. And now just Marita. Great, whoops. Let's see, we lost the others.
Keep scrolling, I'm here.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Annie. We know your job is a tough one tonight because we have such a great audience of so many people. So finding all these squares, good job. All right. So this crew, whenever you are ready, go ahead and start. And don't forget to have a timer up. We'll start your 5 minutes as soon as you start talking.
Okay, awesome. Hi. As a high school teacher, I see about 160 students each day. And this can often be far more in large districts like CPS. On average, there's anywhere from 3 to 8 and sometimes even up to 15 students with an individualized education plan, IEP for short, in one classroom. As you can see on this graph, over 19% of CPS students require special education services. That's roughly 7,000 kids. Not only that, but CPS has a higher percentage than the state average. So we know a huge difference can be made by making the implementation of IEP accommodations more accessible to teachers, support staff, and parents. As you can imagine, serving the needs of these students and keeping up with just what those needs are can be time consuming and take time away from other students. If you've ever tried to read an IEP document, you probably ended up scratching your head a few times trying to find the line between what is solely documentation and what needs to be put into practice. As you can see on this slide, there is a lot that goes into an IEP, and this is just 2 pages of a typically 11-page document. Imagine not only having to read these, but having to refer back to such a long document if you can't remember which of your 160 students gets extra time on assignments versus those who get modified answer options. We have no interest in modifying the important legal document of an IEP, but we want to make sure that educators are held accountable and that students' needs are being met in the classroom.
So how can we be better? How can we empower educators to share information as a best practice guide to make a difference in their lives and, most importantly, the lives of students? How about a development of a tool to share important bits of information from teacher to teacher that helps us serve students to the best of our ability? As a parent of a gifted student and a child that needs additional supports, this type of communication would be an absolute game changer, and I believe that other parents would agree. For example, my daughter Emerson loves the Bengals. Maybe this informs conversation before and after class to build relationships and trust that will be vital in times of crisis. My youngest daughter, Harper, can be easily calmed by listening to classical music. Imagine this information being shared between teachers and staff, parents, and between schools if a student transfers. This can bring valuable time back to all students in the classroom by utilizing a very simple means of communication. Now imagine CPS could use its technology department to build a database and tech coaches to implement a train-the-trainer model in each school building. School building specialists or trainers could help adapt the process to their specific school community and provide help to those educators needing it. While there is a nominal cost to this implementation, using our proposed model would allow for CPS to develop a tool of its own that can be malleable and meet the ever-changing needs of students. Potential funding sources could be IDEA or ESEA special education funds.
As a parent, it's difficult to be sure that my child's needs are being met day to day in the classroom. Being heard and being supported are the biggest struggles as a parent. Most importantly, the feeling that my kid is just not being supported. In the past year alone, my family has had the 5 IEP meetings to try and get that support for my child. This has taught me that if you're not in the room consistently advocating for your child, the current process just doesn't feel like the support is more than the intervention specialist trying to do their best to promise that things are good in the classroom, when actually, they don't always know. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not think this is entirely on the teachers, but remodeling how these accommodations are communicated in the classroom, not just for my child, but for those parents who cannot adequately advocate for them. My wife and I are both college educated. We're outspoken, but it can become very easy for a lengthy IEP process to burden families who may not have the education nor the confidence to speak out about wanting their child's needs to be met.
This framework of presenting accommodations for students is already being done by many intervention specialists and teachers, not just across CPS, but all over the state, including in my own classroom. So I know that it is viable, makes my work easier, and allows me to support the kids I see every day. This is best practice for students as well as teachers and gives everyone the opportunity to better support those who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done and right on time, coming in right at 5 minutes. Well done, team. Okay, so let's get our CPS team back into the spotlight and see what thoughts or questions they have about this new tool for helping implement IEPs.
I'll go first this time. Thank you all so much. It was an awesome presentation. And I think there's, from my time in the classroom or as an assistant principal or just doing what I do for a living now, I have found that better communication will often solve most every issue, professionally, politically, personally, et cetera. And particularly when you're talking about what we're talking about. As a superintendent and president, no, I have for 6 years championed IEPs for every single student in the district. I used to get laughed at about that. This new superintendent doesn't laugh at me about it, and I like that. We're starting to have some real conversations about what that might mean. My point is that to do that authentically, you have to communicate better. So I don't know what this could end up looking like, just to say that if there is a way to streamline that, that's something that's very interesting to me. So thank you.
I guess I will go next. What some of you may not know on the call, I'm actually a degreed special education teacher. My degree is in specific learning disabilities. So I have worked with special education for a long time. I had the best of both worlds where I taught special ed and I was also a math teacher. So I taught on both sides of the house. I think that one thing that is important that Board Member Morosky shared, this is really making sure that there is the level of support necessary and an understanding necessary of the IEPs, the services, how those services are provided. To Mr. Mack, who talked about being educated parents and still being educated parents and involved and still having challenges with implementation, the kind of struggles that causes for parents that don't feel as comfortable engaging in an educational space, it really compounds those concerns. So I definitely think that this is a great thing to have a conversation around. It's really important to talk about and to really champion what that looks like. I think one of the questions that I would have is, how is the tool that we're referencing right now specifically whatever tool we're looking at, how is that different from the resources currently available in the IEP template that we use now?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think the big difference, and I feel I can especially speak to as an educator, is that the IEP forms, although yes, I can look at them and I understand them, know what the accommodations that are needed in my classroom are, if I need a refresher, I am scanning through 11 pages of a document that I have to search through my email because it's not available to me on Progress Book or Schoology or whatever grading resource that the school uses. And so the idea is to have accountability for intervention specialists as well as teachers, where everything is in one place that is needed on a daily basis. Yes, sometimes you have to, read over and look over the more intricate parts of that document, but the day-to-day things are so important that it shouldn't be that hard to get to them. And it shouldn't be that hard to transfer them between classroom and classroom when it comes to specifics about what works best for students, because that doesn't always end up on an IEP document right away. We only have yearly reviews for IEPs where notes and comments from teachers are updated.
This makes me so excited. I just have to say that because this is the work that I've been involved in for a long time. So I just have to say that I'm really, really pretty excited. All the pitches have been great. But when I think about just an express need that we have across the district is really looking at going to the deeper level and using some of the resources that we already have to be able to better inform everyone that is servicing the child that has an IEP. Not just the child that has an IEP, but everyone that is providing service to the child that has an IEP. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right.
I would just like to add, can I add one thing? I
Yeah,
just
go
wanted
for
to
it,
say too, as a parent, like being able to get that information sent to me. So if something's working in the classroom and the intervention specialist or teacher has unlocked that information, that is so, it has like a family engagement piece of it too. And I think that that is another very big thing for us parents and any parents.
Thank you. And thank you all for a great presentation. Thank you for sharing your own perspectives as teachers and as advocates and as parents. Go enjoy the chat. Lots of shout outs to the beautiful family pictures you included too.